We just finished up the Autumn Game Jam and had a blast doing it. The jam was 3 weeks long, but as usual, we wasted most of our time thinking we had lots of time. Hello. This will be the longest jam I've ever done, so we'll see if we can create something better.
Maybe. It's likely, as long as we focus on making a 1 week game in a month.
We did not.
The idea is you have to hurl a pumpkin. Kind of thinking a field on the side where you pick the pumpkin, and then a place that you have to walk to, and then hurl the pumpkin. You feel good about this?
So far, yeah, mainly because we have 2 extra weeks.
It'll be like a lifetime.
This set us up for a pretty miserable final week. We wanted to create a relaxing country vibe in our game world, so instead of opening up Unity on day 1, I opened up a music editor called FL Studio. While I continued on with making the music, Jenny started working on modeling 3D trees.
The trees were a big challenge for me this jam. I tried to focus on building these leafy, branchy, realistic looking trees. To create them, I started with a simple trunk in Blender, and then I applied some hand-painted leaf images as hair particles. This worked okay, but I found out really fast that it was difficult to control the shape of the tree without heavy manipulation of the branches. After a ton of trial and error, I swapped out the leaf images with handmade branch images. That way I could build and fill out the tree much quicker, but not sacrifice performance by going overboard with the edges. I added some windows to the barn to make sure that light could come in from the sky and the player could see the leaves from inside. We rearranged some trees and we added particle effects. I also designed some textures to emphasize the natural materials we'd be using in the game.
Even a week into the jam, we were still bouncing around ideas of what the game should actually be. We knew we wanted it to be in first person and have a very relaxed world for the player to walk around in. But other than that, nothing was really set in stone. I decided to try something I've never done before and make a slingshot. After quite a few failed attempts, I cobbled something together that felt pretty okay. Next, I focused on what happens when the player actually hits something. Launching pumpkins at stuff was a good start, but I wanted more oomph. So I created explosive pumpkins. And to further crank up that fun meter, I made any targets that were caught in the blast also explode into pieces on the ground. That's when I thought, why stop here? So I also added loads of coins to drop for every pumpkin once it hits something. We later swapped out those coins for pumpkin seeds that we used for currency to buy upgrades and stuff, but the overall idea stayed the same. As far as upgrades go, we added baskets to let the player carry more pumpkins, and then the option to buy the whole farm outright. Buying the farm is my poor attempt at making some sort of an endgame, but time was just running out and I still had to make all the sound effects. As usual, we still didn't have a complete game, even 30 minutes out from the deadline. Most of our mechanics were in place, but I totally forgot to add a way for the player to reset targets. So I just threw something together and put in a big red button for the player to click to reset everything. While I did that, Jenny jumped into Blender to make Farmer Chuck. He was supposed to be fully animated and would interact with the player in a pretty friendly way. Instead, with only 20 minutes left in the jam, he was lifelessly slapped behind the shop's counter. Honestly, he looks a bit creepy and not at all the warm, welcoming fellow we imagined, but he's there.
Like, who's this guy? Who's this guy behind the counter?
Why is Chuck just watching me shoot pumpkins?
We also wanted some cool trinkets and doodads on the shelves behind the shop's counter, kind of like a Dave & Buster's or something. But with Jenny tied up in making Farmer Chuck, I had to jump in with my limited modeling skills and made this radio and whatever these are using basic shapes in Unity. Now, with only 10 minutes left, I started testing builds. I planned to upload Windows, Mac, and Linux builds, but of course, everything broke except the web version. So yeah, that's all we made it through the finish line with.
I live for the day when we have 2 extra hours. We've got the thing fully submitted and we're just like, well, we're done early, let's go to bed.
No, that wouldn't be exciting.
If you're interested, you can check out the final product using the link in the description. Either way, thanks for watching and consider subscribing. You take care.